Welcome to episode 559 of the show. Today we're going to explore how we can use educative and informative content to promote your business. Now, why is this kind of content necessary? Why is it important? Oh, by the way, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, when we say content, we just mean stuff that you put out over social media. Whether it's white papers, pictures, any kind of posts, audio, photographs, let's see, what else? Whatever it is that you can put out to promote your business online. Even if it's something as simple as an article that you put out on Nairaland, which is something that I do. I write regularly on Nairaland almost on a daily basis. So that is what we mean when we say content. And to backtrack a little bit further, when people think about content online, there are people who think about putting out educative and informative stuff, like me, and then there are other people who worry about putting out things that are much more entertainment. Lean more into the entertainment side. You're trying to be entertaining. You're trying to be catchy, so that people share. Maybe you're aiming for virality, things of that nature. So I am not going to make the argument one way or another, but in previous episodes, I've made the argument that if your focus is on being catchy, then you have to learn things that have entertainment value. You have to worry about what your personality is, how you sound, how you look, how you dress, how you speak, how you come across, what your copy is, whether it's catchy, all those sorts of things, I think, which are extra hassles that, depending on your personality, you might not want to take on when it comes to running a business. Because for some of us, we just want to be in business without having to worry about whether we look attractive, or whether our beard is the right way, or what the latest dance trend is, or things of that nature. So my argument in one of the videos was that if you take an educative and informative slant, especially for service businesses, then your life is going to be a whole lot easier, because then you don't have to worry about all these other things. You just have to worry about the content. You don't have to worry about getting extra entertainment value or production value behind what it is that you put out. So, back to the topic of today. That was just a summary for those who are listening to the podcast for the first time. And if this is your first time listening, then when you're done with this episode, all you have to do is scroll back a couple of episodes, maybe 2 or 3 episodes, and you get caught up to speed on the previous things that we've discussed here about why content is important for business, the different kinds of content that you can produce, and that sort of stuff, all the good stuff. So, today, how to do educative and informative content. Now, why is that important? It's important because when you put out stuff that educates your audience, or puts out new information that your potential audience or client base is not aware of, when you put out topical content, it shows that you have some form of expertise. Now, expertise reinforces credibility and also reinforces competence. What that means basically is, the more expertise that you show by putting out these kinds of content, it makes it more believable that you are the go-to resource. You're the person who folks should call up whenever they have this problem or whenever they have that problem. And it's something that we know even in our personal lives, because when the kid is sick, or when you are sick, and you have to go and see a specialist, let's say because let's say your feet are swelling or something, and you want to go see a specialist, you don't just go to any doctor. But of course, after speaking with your general doctor, if the doctor thinks that it's a cardiac issue and you guys need to look at you need to say, what are they called? Cardiologist, I think. Yeah, doctors of the heart. You need to say cardiologist. You just don't want it to be any random cardiologist. You want it to be someone that has some relative expertise in the field, and has to be credible. And that's the sort of air that we get when we put out topical content and informative content around our businesses. So it helps build credibility and competence. It makes it believable that you know what it is that you do. And of course, credibility and competence also builds trust. And the reason why all these things are important is because trust makes the rest of the sales process a whole lot easier. Now, there are some of you that have come across this podcast, and then we sit down to talking business because you want me to handle a training session for your staff, or you want me to come part along. You want me to ride along on some of your trainings because there are some other people who listen to this that also run consulting businesses as well, but they are good at other parts of business, but not good on the sales part. And there have been some people who reached out to me in the past just so I can handle the sales part of the equation because that's all I do. Sales, especially personal selling, how we can move the transaction, how we can move the relationship forward one conversation at a time. So I don't do sales funnels, I don't do automation, I don't do all of that. So my area of specialty is you have a potential customer before you, a potential stakeholder, a potential investor. You're trying to move the relationship forward, you're trying to sign the deal, and I help to get you to take that next step. So there's some people who reach out and want to work with me on any of these terms precisely because I've been putting out the podcast for a while. They listen, they see I'm competent, I know what it is that I'm talking about. And so when we meet, it's more or less just getting down to specific terms and especially financial terms or working together. And that's the benefit of putting out this kind of content. Now, I would like to give a little warning. Informative content is not a guarantee that you're going to get a sale because some people assume that because you've been writing that blog post, you've been writing the blog and you've been doing so for 2 years, you assume that every single person that hits you up through the blog is going to become a client of yours, but that is not a guarantee. So informative content doesn't guarantee the sale, but it just helps to facilitate the whole process. You keep doing this, you keep putting yourself out there, you're going to be seen as the expert, there's going to be some trust, there's going to be some credibility. Or as like somebody said once looking through my material, what did the person say? The person said I was building my personal brand. I think the person said I was building, because he's one of these brand types of people, people who believe that brand is the answer to everything. And he said that I was building a personal brand. And well, anyway, those of you who are long-time listeners of the show, you know what my opinions are when it comes to this whole branding thing. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so those are the benefits. Topical content basically sets you out to be an expert, makes you more believable, makes it easier to build trust. Trust also facilitates the sale, and it's not a guarantee, but it should make things go smoother. Now, who should be worried about these sorts of things? I already hinted at that at the beginning of the podcast recording. Most likely service-based professionals, although it can work for anyone, but let's say primarily service-based professionals. So if you're a lawyer, you're some sort of coach, you're some sort of consultant, even if you do a service, you have a business that has a service component and has a product component to it, like bakers, for instance, this can work as well. So for example, beauticians, those of you who do eyebrows, you do nails, you do makeup and things like that, obviously already used to people putting out makeup tutorials and makeup tips and makeup what's it called, when you get two products and then you do a pros and the cons and you say the reason why this blush is better than that blush, or the reason why this blush works better for women with oily skin and that eyeliner works better for people with eyeliner is not for skin, gosh, anyway, let me not make up examples that I know nothing about. But basically, beauticians already use these people who are involved in this space because they put up tutorials, they put up tips, they put up comparisons, they do product reviews, things like that. And that's the whole point, because it puts an aura of expertise around these people so that when you are ready to do your cucumber skin peel or your Moroccan spider skin bleach or whatever it is that you beauticians do. When you're ready to do that, you're going to call this person and that person because from following their content over the last 6 months or 1 year or whatever, you have seen that this person is the industry specialist, the go-to when it comes to doing your halloumi skin massage or your hammam skin massage, or to do your eyebrows, or to do whatever it is. And it's also the same for lawyers. For those of you who have a legal background like I do, you see that your lawyer friends on LinkedIn are putting up opinion pieces on topical issues of the day, and it's precisely around that point. So if the, let's see, the passage of the petroleum industry bill that finally got passed into law. And of course, every single lawyer had an opinion on that. The whole point is not just spouting off your knowledge of the law per se, but to show that when it comes to oil and gas issues, you are the go-to person because you understand what the relevant legislation are, you know how it applies to business, you know things from the legal perspective, and blah, blah, blah. So that's the whole point of lawyers putting out all that kind of content on LinkedIn or going for TV interviews on Channels TV or TVC or whatever. Those are Nigerian news channels, by the way, for those of you who are not Nigerians listening to the podcast. And then another example is there's a podcast run by a friend of mine on the African Free Trade Treaty. Free Trade Treaty, or is it the Free Trade Continental Act? I can't remember. But she has a whole podcast that is just built around that specific legislation, and it's been getting a lot of interest. She's gotten some speaking opportunities. The podcast is just under a year old, so the last time we spoke about it, she hadn't gotten, she hadn't gotten big money from it yet, but had led to some speaking opportunities. So hopefully, consulting opportunities and things like that are in the works for 2023 and beyond. And it's just an example of how you can put out content that sets you out to be the expert, to be the consummate professional on these sorts of things, so that you are the number one person that people go to. And I hope, in particular, this example that I've given, a podcast that is built on a specific legislation, that's the African Free Trade Continental Treaty. Sorry, I'm butchering up the name. I know that for someone who went to school and studied law, I should actually know the name of the legislation. But if you're interested in it and you just Google any of the terms I use, you should be able to find it. So it can even be that niche. That is just one podcast that does with one piece of legislation only. And she's been podcasting for more than a year about it. And at this point, and it's something that you can go several years upon with a little bit of creativity, especially since it is something that business people who do cross-border negotiations, cross-border transactions, Nigerians doing business in Togo, Togolese people trading with someone in Cameroon, Cameroonian people doing business with someone in Mali, Mali people doing business with someone in Senegal, and Senegalese people transacting back and forth to South Africa. And you can see that the opportunities are multitude to keep discussing the free trade treaty, how it affects trade from one country to another, how it affects the trade in services between one country or another, or how it affects specific commodities. So that's just an example. Then, of course, there's the masseuse who listens to the podcast, our resident masseuse. I mentioned her before in a couple of episodes ago. And someone like her can put out content on the relationship between back pain and health and safety practices at work. So how do you sit? How high is your chair? Is your chair too close to the computer? What's the adequate what's the proper length of time for sitting down at the office? How often do you stand up and work and walk around the office and things like that? So people who are in these sorts of things, chiropractors, masseuses, this is the kind of content that you can put out so that when someone in your personal network is dealing with back pain or whatever occupational hazards that they go through, they know that you are the number one person to call. So these are examples of how service-based professionals can use informative content to promote their businesses. So for the beautician, she's putting out content every day, but the message is the same. The message is simple. She's a professional when it comes to skincare. For the lawyer, putting out this content every week for the whole year, and the message is simple. She is skilled and she's competent when it comes to international trade terms and contracts and things of that nature. Then for the masseuse, all that content, but the point of it is this lady knows about back pain and all these other issues, and she's the kind of person that can help. Then on the kinds of contents I've already mentioned earlier in the podcast recording that it can be posts on Instagram, it can be photos, diagrams, essays, blog posts, video, audio podcasts like this, or like my friend who has the podcast on the African Free Trade Continental Treaty. Which platforms should you use? That's also another question that we get all the time. And the answer is simple. You go to where your target audience is. So it's not about saying, I like LinkedIn, and so because of that, I'm only going to put out stuff on LinkedIn. If you like LinkedIn, but your target base is on, what's that one? The one where you put photos, Pinterest. So if you like LinkedIn, but your target audience is on Pinterest, then there's no point in you putting all the stuff on LinkedIn if all the magic is happening with your customers on Pinterest. So you go to where your people are. So it's not a matter of I don't like Pinterest, I prefer LinkedIn, or I don't like Pinterest, I prefer Instagram. If your people are on Pinterest, be on Pinterest. Learn about Pinterest. Learn how to pin, learn how to curate, and learn how to pin and how to post on Pinterest. So it's about where your target audience is. So the primary question isn't what do you prefer, it is where is your audience. So traditionally, you find that LinkedIn is where there's lots of stuff around careers and business going on. Then TikTok and Instagram, where lifestyle things are going on, but a younger demographic when it comes to lifestyle. Then you find that for Facebook, lifestyle stuff is going on there, but usually an older demographic. So you're going to find all these rough rules, like, okay, Pinterest, I think the last time I checked, I think Pinterest was mostly 80% women that use it, also of a certain age. So these are the things that you can look into when it comes to determining which platform to use. But remember, the overriding criteria isn't what you find most comfortable or what you find easiest to produce. It's about where your audience is. If all the action is happening on TikTok, then don't say, I don't like TikTok. I'm a 50-year-old woman. Why should I be on TikTok? If unfortunately the product or the service that you have decided to go into are people of a certain age and a certain demographic, and they are all on TikTok, and the action is happening on TikTok, then you're not going to achieve anything posting a lot on LinkedIn because you're a 50-year-old woman or you're a 60-year-old man and you think you're too old for TikTok. If your target audience is on TikTok, then make it work. Perhaps you can put up the content, but then it doesn't have to be you. It could be a member of staff that you think meets the demographic, but it's not about you. It's about the target audience. Then, let's see. Oh, so how to go about this? Create a content calendar is something we've spoken about in the past. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, scroll down after you're done with this podcast and you see episodes where we have suggestions about how to start a podcast and how to manage content calendar. So you get into some more detail there. And the reason why I recommend using a content calendar is because a content calendar cures for a number of problems that you're going to face when it comes to producing content to promote your business. Number one, motivation. It's not easy to wake up every day and say, I'm going to post, I'm going to post, I'm going to post, because well, it's not easy. There's a motivation problem. But if you have a content calendar that says on Monday, we'll post this, on Tuesday, we'll post this, on Wednesday, this, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you get the picture. And it has already laid out everything from January all through to March. At least you know that for the next 90 days, motivation shouldn't be much of a problem. And then also it removes the inspiration problem as well, because sometimes you wake up and you're not inspired to create. You're wondering, what should I create, what should I think, what should I write, what should I photograph. But having a content calendar takes care of all these problems. It cures for motivation, it cures for inspiration. So like in my own case, I don't worry about what I'm going to do today, tomorrow, or the day after. So I woke up today and I had to look at my sheet. I don't have a proper content calendar because I just jot down questions that I receive and I work off that. When the questions get too much, I type them out and then put them on my phone and I refer to them later on. So for this episode, I didn't have to plan what to do. I just woke up. I had a look at the list, and this was the next question that needed to be addressed, and that was it. And I just hit record and started making today's episode. So that's the benefit of having a content calendar. Cures for motivation, cures for inspiration. It also helps because it's going to make sure that you go at this thing for a very long time. So that's what guarantees longevity and sustainability in the when we start when we start using content to promote our businesses. If everything has already been planned out from January to March, the chances that you will go through January to March are a lot higher than if you wake up and you're trying to freestyle it every day. So, content calendar. Remember, after this episode, scroll back. You find the episodes on content calendars, and you get some more details there. Then, apart from content calendar, you also have to decide a cadence that is comfortable to you. In the beginning, start with a cadence that's comfortable to you. When you take feedback, your audience will let you know whether your cadence is too much or too little. So, are you going to be posting on an hourly basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? At first, start with what's comfortable to you, and then take feedback from the market, and then you adapt accordingly. I've also done a podcast recording on this. I think that was also on. I'm not sure if that was on the content calendar episode. But anyway, I use the example of people who run betting franchises. Now, if you run a betting franchise, having a weekly posting schedule, a weekly cadence, is not going to work, because the whole point of betting outfits and sport betting outfits is that you're trying to make small amounts of money over lots of people very quickly in huge chunks over the whole day. So someone places a bet, there's a small spread on it. The profit that you might make on the bet might be, I don't know, maybe 20 kobo on every naira, or 50 kobo on every naira, or something like that. And that's not going to make you a millionaire. So the whole point is to get that person to bet 1 naira, or 10 naira, or 100 naira, or whatever, multiple times a day, several times a week, several times a month, several months of the year. And that's how you make your profits in these kinds of things. Because the 50 naira, the 10 kobo, the 1 naira profits you make, the 10 naira profits you make, roll over throughout the end of the year. So you find, my guess is that you find people like that have to their cadence has to be several times in a day, maybe hourly. Now, I don't know how things work now that everything is all high tech, but back when I lived in Lagos and I was in uni, when I lived in Lagos and I was in university, back then you'd have to go to the physical center to look at the board to see what the odds are. Manchester United is playing Chelsea. The odds are this to this. The match is so and so, and blah blah blah. There would be a board that somebody would have to wipe out and then write on, and so back then people would have to write on those boards multiple times a day. So it wouldn't be out of place for that board to be changed 5 or 6 times during the day. So for the Manchester match, this is the time, these are the odds, blah, blah, blah. So back when I lived in Lagos and I schooled in Ife, you could see those sorts of things if you were in the market, like Alade Market on Allen Avenue, for instance. I mean, before it got bulldozed, it was one of those outfits that was behind Alade Market. So the board is there and they keep changing the fixtures and everything. So that's the kind of business you do. Weekly, it's not going to work. So most likely hourly. So, or every 2 hours, every 3 hours, you're putting out new content if you're in that kind of space, if you run a betting franchise. Then, so remember, you're going to take feedback, and your market is going to determine. Because for you, you might be comfortable posting things every day, but for your target audience, it's too much, and then you'll have to scale back. So there are people who have started podcasts that are daily podcasts, but then it's too much for their target audience, and so they make it a weekly thing, or the other way around. You start off weekly, but there's more demand, and then becomes a daily thing. Okay, yeah. So now, what time frame can we expect to see the money? Because that's what this is all about, after all, isn't it? There's no point in showing that you're the expert and building credibility if you're not going to get some moolah, if you're not going to get some profits from this. Now, the time frame. When it comes to content, we should remember content is a medium to long-term play. So we're thinking months or we're thinking years. We are not thinking weeks. You are not going to start your podcast today in January, and by February, you're making millions from it. It might happen, but statistically speaking, that is not going to happen. You're not going to start your blog on the 1st of January, and then by the 25th of January, you're making millions from it. That is not how it works. Even if you look for the super successful stories, at least in Nigeria anyway, the Linda Ikejis of Nigeria, there's Linda Ikeji, Bella Niger, what else? Those kinds of outfits. It was I mean, in fact, for those people, it was in years. I think Bala Naija was 3 or 4 years. Linda AKG, I'm not sure. Anyway, let me not guess, but you get the picture. Medium to long term. So you're thinking in terms of months or years. We're definitely not thinking weeks, and we're definitely not thinking days. And the reason why it's medium to long term is because remember that educative and informative content is a credibility play. Nobody builds credibility in days or weeks. The cardiologist that you like, the children's doctor, what are they called? Pediatricians. The pediatrician that you like, they didn't build their credibility in 2 weeks or in 3 months. And also, it's the same thing. That lawyer that you trust, the reason why you say he's the go to person for electoral malpractices and stuff like that, the person didn't build their credibility in 2 weeks. Building credibility takes time. So no one is going to think you're a professional makeup artist just because you have put out 5 videos. So don't put out 5 videos on skincare and things like that and then you say social media doesn't work. You have only put out 5 videos. Why do you think somebody's going to trust their face for you to do a Moroccan skin peel on their face with God knows what chemicals just because you have done 5 videos? Now, on the other hand, if in the last year you have done, let's say, 40 videos, and apart from those 40 videos, you have put up videos of 10 live sessions. And out of those 10 live sessions, you've gotten 3 people to come back with testimonies where you do before and after, you look at videos and talk through results and you talk about how they're feeling now and something like that. Then, perhaps if that's what you've been able to achieve over the course of this year in 2023, then maybe in 2024, you could expect people to start coming in on the strength of those videos to say that thing that you did for this woman in episode 258. That is what I want you to do for me. I want Moroccan skin peel because I have, skin peel. I want Moroccan skin peel because I have black spot here and I have this and I have that and blah, blah, blah. So I'm sure you get the picture. Let's see. What else? Okay, yeah, we've gone more than 20 minutes, so let me just wrap it up. Now, when people inquire, let's say you've done your job right, you've been doing this for a very long time, for some months or years, and then people reach out. What you do when people reach out to you is not to start talking price immediately. What you have to do is to qualify. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, skip back to older episodes that have qualification in the title, and you're going to get a fuller idea of what qualification means. That's basically just trying to sort people out. You're trying to figure out who is interested, who is curious, who is not interested, and who is just spamming you. Some people are going to spam you because they're trying to sell stuff and they've got your contact details. Some people are interested and they're ready to go now. There's some people who are just curious. So somebody's going to reach out, ask about Moroccan skin peel, but the lady is not necessarily ready to do her skin peel today. She's just putting out feelers. And that's the whole point of qualifications. You're trying to sort people out so that the person who is interested and ready to do business today or tomorrow, you can handle the conversation properly, move things along, and close the deal to get business done. Now, how do you get people to inquire? How do you get people to take the next step? We will do that in the next episode. I will wrap it up here. Sorry that this one has been really, really long. I've been doing really good in the past of keeping to a 10-minute time frame, but this was a lot to cover today, and I didn't want to break it up into too many episodes. So, thank you very much for following me along today on episode 559. Thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.